Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 248 of Super Switch Headz, the premier Nintendo podcast on all of the internet. My name is David Howe.
My name is Patrick Nisley.
And oh boy, we have some very special guests, plural, joining on today's episode. From Wild Rooster, we have the wonderful Rusty Moyher and Jeff Fillion, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, how's it going, guys?
Good to be here. How you doing?
Good. Yeah, very good. I'm excited to have you on. We're here to discuss the release of your new game, Astro Duel 2, which at the time that this episode comes out, will be releasing tomorrow. Very excited to help spread the word about this super awesome game. Talk a little bit about the game design, kind of what went into it, what you guys love so much about like couch co-op, multiplayer style games, and so much more. We'll be getting into all of that after the news section. But we got some great news and rumors as well to go over today. Splatoon's got some new events coming up. Our good friend, the bird Puro, is back with a juicy rumor about Mario Day. And then Yuzu emulator has been a whirlwind of news over about 48 hours. We're going to be getting into all stuff related to the Nintendo Switch emulator as well. But before we get into all that stuff, how are we doing? How are our weeks? How are you doing, Patrick? You have a good week this past week?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. I'm living a pretty boring life these days, but that's by design. Doing okay. I don't have a whole lot to report. Honestly, like the main topic, when we get to Astro Duel 2, I'm really excited to talk about it because like that kind of dominated the weekend here for
hell
me.
Yeah. Very cool. How about you, Rusty? How you doing?
Good. I mean, it's a pretty busy time right now, so we're kind of firing all cylinders. So glad we had time to do this though, because it's fun to chat.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a crazy whirlwind leading up to launch. So definitely appreciate you guys taking the time to speak to us. Jeff, how are you doing?
Yeah, a little busy, a little tired. Excited to have this thing, finally out in people's hands. See them play it.
I'm pumped. I definitely had some friends over to play it this past weekend after awesome. I saw Dune 2 in theaters. Tune, if you will. Man, I've got Dune on the brain, gang, and that was a great fucking movie. I'm going back again next week. I'm very excited. Do you guys have a chance to watch it yet?
Yeah, it was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I didn't actually ask if it was
You can cuss
if
that's what you're wondering. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I don't know if you're supposed to cuss in the first like few minutes on YouTube. I don't really know how the algorithm works. So.
Bleep it out.
Fuck it. But yeah, no, great times all around. Although I did just find out that I'm going to have to move soon. I just got like a message on my door being like, you got to move out of here by like May 31st. So
oh man,
if anybody knows some bitchin' spots in Austin, hit me up. I'll be looking to move.
Sorry, David.
Oh, that's all right. I knew this was coming. The place I live at is like the most under the table place I've ever lived at. Like it was just a matter of time. So the chickens came home to roost. The wild roosters came home to roost.
Yeah, we're here, and we left the note on your door. So sorry. Yeah.
Well, before we get into anything else, we're going to do some shout outs. Last week, we did an episode about the Nintendo Direct and the Pokemon Presents. And we got a lot of comments. We'll start with some comments about Legends ZA, which was announced. I think, David, you and I both thought there might be some city building elements to this game, and people are not here for that. Or at least the big game being dominated by that. Jay on our Discord said they'd be hella disappointed if Legends ZA is a city builder. Eric Shaw on YouTube said, I can't imagine it being drastically different than Legends Arceus, and so on. But I'm with you, David. I think that there's an element of that to it. And to back it up, Emma on our Discord server, who always knowledgeable about stuff like this, dropped some of the lore from those games, saying that there's like a cycle of destruction in that particular one, and it's implied that at some point society would have to be rebuilt. So I think there could be that element of it.
There's also a character in that game named AZ, which I think is 3,000 years old. It's like an old man in that game. So I think it would make sense if this is kind of like the prophecy or what. I don't know. I'm not a fucking Pokemon historian.
Wanted to shout out Carosetta over on our Discord as well. And also on the YouTube, Record agreed with some of the speculation we had about Switch and Switch 2 timing. And Drew Musil said, hat game on point this episode. So thanks to everybody who commented. Definitely, if you're watching or listening out there and there's anything we talk about, leave a comment, shoot us a note, and we'll try to shout you out next time. Also, please share the podcast with a friend, post a review online, join our Patreon to support our show, and also hit like and subscribe on YouTube.
Yeah, and a quick shout out before we get into the news to Super Film Heads. We got the first episode of the previously Patreon only exclusive episode is now up for everybody just in time for the Oscars this weekend. So if you're trying to figure out who to bet on for your Oscars betting pool, listen to our episode. We'll give you some of the breakdown on that.
And with that, we're going to talk about the video game news for the week. So Nintendo news, big Splatoon 3 events just got announced for March, the fresh season 2024. So there's going to be a Splatfest at the end of the month on March 22nd, where the question is, which instrument would you play? Drums, guitar, or keyboard? Quick survey here. If you got to pick an instrument there, what do you pick?
Keyboard.
Yeah, I think keyboard is the go-to on this one.
Jeff?
I'm going drums. Just bang it out.
There's no wrong answer here. I think this is a good one because there is like going to be a nice split.
Except fuck guitar.
Yeah, except no guitar.
That's a vanilla answer. Come on.
Look, I want to be a drummer. I just have nowhere to put a fucking drum set. I mean, let's get real.
Anything can be a drum set if you hit it hard enough.
Wow. Also, the next big run is happening sooner. It's actually happening this weekend, March 8th through 10th. Looking forward to this one. This one's going to be in Eeltail Alley. You know, I'm a big Salmon Run player in Splatoon. And just real quick, because we're talking about Salmon Run here, and just to not gunk up the works later, there's a new Salmon Run stage, and I love it. I'm really into that. I only played it a little bit today, but man, it's called like Bone Rattle Arena or Bone Battle Arena or something like that. But I think my favorite feature about it is in the background, there are these like 2D sprites of the salmonids that look like an old like N64 game, like because they just like kind of have a simple animation that like when you're in like it reminds me of like an old 3D fighting game or something.
I was thinking like the old Mario Kart stage in Mario 64 where the toads are kind of out there.
It also feels like toads, in a Mario game in the background. Anyway,
I notice, Jeff, you've got some inklings in the background of your thing there. Are you a big Salmon Run player?
It's been a while since I've played Splatoon, but I had to like add some decorations, theming, of course.
Of course.
Yeah, I've had these since the Splatoon 1 days.
Nice.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Patrick, have you tried the DLC?
I haven't bought the DLC for Splatoon.
Oh, Patrick, you would love it. It's like made for you, I think.
I will try it. I will buy it at some point soon, but I just haven't.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're a disappointment.
to you and everybody out there listening. Yeah.
Nintendo's disappointed. They could have sold this to you, you know?
They really want that money.
That $20, yeah. We'll move on. If this is sort of more of a heads up to, collectors and Animal Crossing fans, that the Lego Animal Crossing sets are now available out there. They look cute, but I don't know that I need more stuff. So, yeah. I don't know if anybody here is a big Animal Crossing fan or Lego wants to pick these up, but they're definitely out there in the wild now. So
these look particularly for babies.
I may have ordered a set.
Okay, hell yeah. Sorry.
But you got a bunch of Lego right there.
Yeah, you can kind of see there's a little theme back there with some of the architectural sets. So,
very
nice.
Nintendo, it's architecture. I kind of had to jump on at least one of them.
Well, I rescind my baby comment.
Which one did you get?
100% is. I got the only one that wasn't back ordered on the day they launched.
Yeah.
The dual pack with Nook's Cranny.
The big one.
Yeah.
That was the big one. That one's probably the most fun build. because that's the thing with these licensed Lego sets. It's a lot of like characters and not as much of a build. But anyway, that's a whole nother discussion. We'll move on.
Yeah, save it for Super Lego Headz.
Yeah. Jeff and I will do that one later.
Yeah.
So yeah, like David hinted at the top, there's been some rumors about what might happen on Mario Day, which is coming up this weekend, as March 10th has become Mario Day, and Nintendo has acknowledged this increasingly in the last few years. The leaker Pioro, who's been right a lot lately, is saying that we're going to hear more about. I mean, I don't even know if this really counts as a leak because we already know about these games, but like that we're going to hear more about Luigi's Mansion 2 remake and the Paper Mario Thousand Year Door remake on Mario Day, which would make a lot of sense.
I think the one thing that would maybe be weird about this is just it's a Sunday. You know, Nintendo doesn't really make announcements so much on a Sunday, but we definitely need release dates for both of those games. And I'm really hoping that we do see more of Luigi's Mansion 2 and that it is more of a remake or a remaster than it looked when they first revealed it. Because that's a really awesome game. It would just kind of suck if it was just kind of slapped on the system when Luigi's Mansion 3 like looks so good in comparison on the console. I'd love to see that get like a proper coat of polish. But we'll see, I suppose. This
one's a little weird. I did not know about this, but apparently the Pokeball on the back of Pokemon cards, David, this is obviously not my area of expertise, but like was always wrong. In this new Pokemon card game, they're going to actually fix the model of the ball. This is really fascinating because I guess going back to the original card game, they used like some concept art or something that has a slight difference from the way it's always been in the anime and games, and presumably from there on. And they're finally changing it, at least digitally, in this new game.
And the issue is the black stripe?
No, it's like hopefully, Patrick, you can have a picture of this up or something. But it's
sure,
like there's the red part of the Pokeball is like going up away from the white part, which has the button attached to the bottom. Where the button's
supposed to go up.
The button's supposed to go up with the red part. And yep. I put this news item in today because I'd never realized for the past 20 years or whatever that that it was incorrect on the cards. And apparently they're fixing it for the digital game. I doubt that they'll actually change the backs of the cards like IRL, just because you kind of can't do that. Because you gotta, use. I mean, I guess maybe they reboot the entire game, right? But yeah, I don't know. I just thought that was a funny story of I don't know. It's one of those like Mandela effect sort of things. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure they'd be happy to sell us all the cards again, right? Those ones are defunct. You have to buy the correct ones now.
Yeah.
Last week we reported that Nintendo had sued the maker of the Yuzu emulator. I think their name is like Tropic Haze. They have an LLC, so that's important for what we're about to discuss. So yeah, apparently very quickly, because that lawsuit was only filed within a week or so, a little over a week ago, there's already been a settlement to this lawsuit. And basically Tropic Haze is, the judgment is for $2.4 million. That doesn't mean they will actually ever pay that much because they are an LLC and they might not be worth that much. I can't imagine they are. But the other maybe striking part of this too is this isn't a signed judgment. We should say the judge still needs to enter it, but it's like a proposed judgment that's been filed, and it'll probably get signed. But they agreed to a lot of factual things, including like turning over all their tools, their domain name, destroying all copies of everything, all kinds of stuff, and just some like statements about it. It's pretty
like the Patreon's getting shut down, the Discord's being shut down.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Also very thankful to have an ex-paralegal on the show here, Patrick, to break this down. You really showed your acumen there. But I mean, it's crazy. And I guess Citra as well is, I don't know if that's run by the same team, but the 3DS emulator, I think if anything, that's a bigger loss. I don't know if it's all of Citra or just like Yuzu's support for Citra. I don't know if like they had some developers in on it as well. With obviously the internet being shut down on 3DSs, the store being closed, we need a good solid 3DS emulator now more than ever. I definitely understand them wanting to shut down a Switch emulator because it is very much a platform that they're trying to still sell games on. But yeah, I don't really like the precedent that this sets, as a fan of emulation and as someone who buys all of his games. I haven't pirated a game in forever, but I do still emulate a lot, especially classic games and sometimes even modern games if it's more convenient for me to play on a certain platform. If I own the game, I see no qualm in doing so. But yeah, it's definitely, I was kind of surprised to see them settle this so quickly. Yeah, I don't know. What do you have any thoughts on this, Rusty?
Well, I mean, I think you brought it up right there, which was sort of precedent, like what this means for other things. Like for a long time, things have stood that emulation is legal, right? It's fine. Piracy is not, but emulation has, in previous cases, have proved out to be legal. And what does this mean going forward with other emulators? Are we going to have people who are going to be less shy to, make their own emulators or to contribute? Like what could this lead to in terms of other things being shut down? But I mean, things have taken a big turn even recently with Patreon. Like a lot of these emulator contributors didn't used to make so much money from it. And they were very much sidestepping the whole issue with basically they are taking money for the emulator. They're like, you're paying our Patreon and you're getting early access to it. But like, yeah, we know what's happening here. So
and they're paywalling features of it too, so.
But obviously the Legend of Zelda stuff, I'm sure you guys probably talked about it last week. Like it's, I don't know, you don't want to get the game spoiled. You want to have it, have people experience it raw without that. And,
Yeah. And I mean, this is clearly also at the end of the day, like Nintendo doesn't need $2 whatever million. I don't know if they'll be able to like file for bankruptcy as an LLC. I don't know if that's possible.
Yeah, I mean, but, they're so like on that front, right? Like you form an LLC to protect yourself, right? Like so, the business's assets are potentially like whatever the business has, they've agreed to pay, right? Like, but there's no way that this Tropic Haze or whatever has 2.4 million. I mean, very unlikely that they can ever pay this judgment, but that doesn't matter, right? Like it's still a judgment that Nintendo can say we got a 2.4 million judgment.
Well, Nintendo ran a very successful Patreon then for a while. I guess that's what happened here.
Right.
I don't know. It's just, as someone who has had a history in dabbling in different piracy websites of the sort back, especially in like my college days when I was a broke, before the days of Spotify when I was downloading all my music and everything like that. Whenever something like this happens, there's forks that get made and it's like a Hydra, you cut off one head. It's not like Switch emulation is going to be going anywhere, right? It's like, if you want access to this emulator, it's not going to be hard to find on the internet, right? From here on out, like the official channels are gone, the GitHub page is down, but it's like, this is not the end of this. I think more than anything, this is Nintendo wanting to make an example. And I think this is just, hopefully, I think it is a good idea for this stuff to just be made by passionate coders and players rather than people trying to make money off of this sort of thing. Hopefully that's the takeaway rather, I guess.
Yeah.
Than to just not do emulation ever again.
I don't pretend to be somebody who has followed this before all this, but just, I feel like I've been seeing, I guess Nintendo did their homework and like took their time and got lots of screenshots of stuff. And I've just seen more and more some of the screenshots of, people that worked on this, things they said in their Discord, the amount of money they made on Patreon, the way they approached this, definitely. Yeah, it doesn't feel like, to your point, like these are preservationists or whatever, you know what I mean? That doesn't come across. It does feel a little shadier. We can move on to some interesting trend that's been happening, I guess. I don't know how to feel about this, where
I feel great about it.
Well, I mean, some of it I feel good about. Like it's just like what it all means in the long run. But there's been a lot of studios who are now kind of spinning off as independent or being sold off after being acquired. First up, we're going to talk about is Toys for Bob, which is apparently going indie, or is an independent studio rather. They were part of the Microsoft acquisition and now going to be an independent studio. I guess this is a good result, right? Like, we heard about layoffs there, so that's obviously bad, but hopefully they'll be able to support themselves. And sounds like they still have a relationship with Microsoft from their statement that they put out.
Oh, they could maybe use some Microsoft IP then too.
Right. That's the, we'll see. Right. Yeah,
that'd be the best of all worlds. I think if they could just get paid by Microsoft to do these things as their own entity rather than face the whims and wishes of stockholders or shareholders in the Microsoft corporation, right? Like, that's like really the bad guy here has been in all of this consolidation, has been having to appease people that don't give a fuck about video games and only care about bottom line, right? But yeah, have either of you, like Jeff, have you ever worked for a major studio, or have you only ever been independent?
I've only been independent or contracting that then was involved with another studio, but through the studio I worked at.
Right.
So like secondary to all the bureaucracy, but our contract was, doesn't matter if they shut something down, like we're getting paid as an exit clause type thing as well.
Yeah. That's kind of how I'm at with I don't work in games, so I work in animation. Same kind of thing where we're like for hire, right? So it makes it to where you're like project to project. Hopefully we're around, but it's kind of, at least you're not like, I could get fired at any minute.
I mean, pretty much, solo for 11 years with Wild Rooster. So it's been a long time, like a little bit of contract work, but nothing with anybody big. It's just filling holes between projects. So
The other kind of news around this that's somewhat similar is that Saber is rumored to split off from Embracer. I guess this is sort of a similar situation. I don't know exactly, or they're being sold to some other group maybe. I don't think this has actually happened yet, and this is Bloomberg reporting this, so it's like a source to Bloomberg is saying this, so we'll find out what this means down the line, I'm sure. And while we're just hitting that one, also Gearbox is apparently going to be sold by Embracer. Again,
that rumor has been going around for a bit.
Yeah. So I guess this is, again, like, until we know where and how but obviously Embracer is not everybody's favorite right now. So maybe not being under their thumb is good. Let's hope it's not a frying pan to fire situation here, but for these companies.
Yeah, man, if you could escape the evil clutches of the goddamn Embracer group, like, do it, like, get out. I hope to see this as a trend going forward. I mean, I think, we talked about the most recent DICE awards and the DICE summit that happened recently. Everybody was shitting on Embracer the entire time. Like, people are not happy with them, and justifiably so. Yeah. I feel like they kind of kicked off this whole huge trend of massive layoffs and everything. It's not that it wasn't going to happen without them, but it certainly started. It got the ball rolling on all of this. So I think they are truly a lot to blame for so much of what we're seeing now, particularly with just gobbling up all these little studios, right?
It's pretty complicated, and I don't understand it all. I just can see some of the things that I do see, which is, I mean, interest rates. You used to be able to get money so cheap, but then now interest rates are rising, and it's making it harder for everyone to get loans. And this is affecting everything. I mean, Embracer lost out. Was it a year and a half, 2 years ago that they didn't get their big Saudi deal?
Yeah, the $1 billion deal or whatever.
Then the embrace of death started, where they basically were constricting and holding everyone back. But I mean, it's affecting everything. Like, obviously, I think we're up to 8,000 layoffs already this year. And it's on the smaller end, like a lot of like mid-tier, like AA and smaller studios are unable to get loans right now in terms of also investment, like trying to talk to bigger outfits out there. And a lot of people that would have said yes in the past are now being turned down. We're like, well, let's wait and see. It's like, like last year, even actually, we were starting to see a lot of stuff a lot of people were not getting money that would have changed hands, a lot contracts that would have gotten signed. So this is going to have an effect a few years out. We're going to have all these games that would have fit in this kind of AA space are not going to be happening. So we're going to have a glut, coming up possibly. So
it'll all be sequels and things that people thought were good investments, which is like sequels, right? You're right. Like,
it's going to be Hollywood. Yeah.
Right. I think that's like what it's because, people are going to be like, well, I might've taken a chance on something, but now I'm going to pay attention to the metrics really close, whether or not that's right or good,
well, that's my fear with a lot of these. My one fear about like leaving the Embracer umbrella or leaving Microsoft or whatever is like all of a sudden it's like all on you in order to survive and read the market and know exactly what needs to be done. And not that like you need to read the market to make good games, like that's probably also honestly how you get really uninspired shit like we're talking about. But like anyway, I just hope that this is an opportunity, if this trend does continue, that there's an opportunity here to embrace like a 4-day work week and be okay with work from home, and, like Rockstar just said that they're making all their employees go back to 5 days a week at the office. It's like we're in different times now. Right. And so, maybe this is part of those growing pains in order to kind of finally get to a much more modern workplace, especially within the entertainment industry.
And we don't have to harp on this particular one, but there were layoffs at EA since our last episode, just to continue the trend of like Rusty was talking about, ridiculous amount of layoffs in the video game industry in just the last several months and this year so far. So that's obviously continuing, and that's EA. That's a big one. We hear about that, but like Rusty, like you said, there are smaller outfits that are closing or losing funding and that sort of thing too. So.
Yeah. I was disappointed with EA that they canned their first-person Star Wars project.
Yeah.
And Respawn was doing this. Mm-hmm. And like Respawn is great at first-person games. Mm-hmm. So like not getting a Star Wars first-person from them is like so sad. Like I have so much love for the original Dark Forces. For I think they actually have a re-release that just came out.
It just came out. I haven't picked it up yet, but I really want to. Yeah.
We're gonna end with some good or fun news. I don't know if it's good. I think it's good. David, you shared this with me before the podcast, and this is pretty cool. So unfortunately, I guess, the Wii U servers are going to be shutting down in about a month, right? Sometime in early to mid-April. And a cool trend that has been happening is that Mario Maker 1 players are trying to beat every unbeaten level that has been uploaded. And there was a really great Reddit post by somebody who kind of like has been following this and shared it. And David, do you want to break some of this down for us?
Yeah, and I'm not an expert on this, but I did find it kind of inspiring in the face of adversity, maybe you could say. But, Mario Maker 1 stopped the ability to upload levels to it a while ago. This is not a recent thing, but you can still download them, right? And I think that they have all been downloaded at some point, and I think actually Pretendo has re-uploaded all of them to their own servers, so that's cool. The kind of like fan-run Nintendo servers that are out there now. But yeah, there are, I think, only about 400 levels left for them to clear. And there was a great breakdown in this Reddit article about like where they're from. All of the US levels have been cleared. There's like a few from like Mexico, I think, or Spain levels.
Yeah.
That are, and they're all like horrifying precision-based levels according to this Reddit post. And so it's kind of turned Mario Maker 1, which was always like a single player online experience, into this like cumulative multiplayer like project that Mario Maker fans are working towards. And it's really nice to see because, there's a lot of Mario Maker content creators that I enjoy the work of. Like I still watch Ryukar all the time. He's a really fun YouTuber who plays Mario Maker. And he plays Mario Maker 1 all the time. And it's like he's the band on the Titanic, as it's going down. and it's just really exciting to watch everybody kind of celebrating this game because there's so much great there's so much great stuff about Mario Maker 1 that wasn't included in the later games. And while it's sad to see it go, obviously, it's nice that fans are coming together and making something out of a bad thing.
Yeah. Pretty
awesome.
Pretty cool. So that's going to do it for our video game news and rumors segment. And we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we're going to be talking all about Astro Duel 2. We are back, and this week we are talking about Astro Duel 2. We've got Rusty and Jeff from Wild Rooster. This is a couch multiplayer game that's coming out on PC and Switch this week. Very excited to have y'all here. Before we get
comes out tomorrow.
Yeah, it's always weird recording and the timing. Thank you for that. Or it's out now if you're listening late. That's also the other way I have to cover. Not everybody listens.
Or if you're listening in the year 2035, it came out 10 years ago.
Welcome to our 10th anniversary episode. We're so glad you're here. It took so long for us to be ready for this moment. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, before we talk about the game itself, maybe we could have y'all introduce yourselves, kind of talk about your background in games and what you did on this project and that sort of thing.
Sure, yeah. I'm Rusty Moyher. I am the director of this and the person who started it. And I worked on the design and code and really, I guess, putting together a team that can finish this thing. So it's been a long project. This is definitely the biggest project I've ever worked on. Before that, I mean, gosh, I made a bunch of games. I was on the show previously talking about Dig Dog, and this will be the 17th game that I've shipped.
Nice.
Wow.
Some of them have been quite small, like they've taken about a month, and some of them are larger. And this is definitely the big one. So yeah.
Oh yeah.
Very nice.
I'm Jeff Fillion. I am the artist on Astro Duel 2. So I haven't been on it the whole time. I got on, was it just before the pandemic, like the October before the pandemic started?
Yeah. Like November 2019.
Yeah. So I got started on it then, and it's learning pixel art on the job. So that's been fun.
Yeah, we were gonna have to talk about that. I actually saw you in a Austin Game Dev Discord and saw you say that, and I was like, "What? That's crazy." We'll have to talk more about that.
Yeah. Especially with the big chunky pixels in the at the very end of the when you finish a round in this game, it shows your character nice and big. I love that.
We're talking about it now. Like, I swear I saw you say that like 6 months ago or something on some ATX.
Are you on the ATX game?
Yeah, I think it was that one, right? Like, because I'm also making a game, but like, I just saw you say that and was like, okay, I filed that away, and now I've played the game and seen the art, and it is fantastic, and I love the art. And I'm like, how is this your first pixel art? Like, that's nuts. Okay, well, that might not be true. It's
actually, mostly. I did a Christmas card like 15 years ago or something for some friends, and that's the other pixel art I did.
Okay, so what you're saying is you're a fraud.
Yes, you're a liar. Fraud. Yeah, one Christmas card, and then this game more than a decade later. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, like my actual education background was like physical media, like illustration, back from like 02 to 06, and then video game retail for 15 years. So didn't use any of it, and then kind of left that and got started working with some buddies, kind of doing board game designs. And what I do kind of day to day in my other game design life is mostly game design stuff. So I've shipped one title with Farbridge that I can talk about, which was the port of Ruby Grim Eclipse to the Switch. So I was kind of doing like control designs and camera designs for that version. And then a few other projects that are either didn't come out or are pending but can't talk about right now.
Right.
Yeah. Oh yeah. All for the Switch 2, I imagine.
But you can confirm.
Did you hear about that?
It's actually
I wasn't sure we could talk about that.
Yeah. We're hoping it's called the Super Switch.
You know what? Let me actually just explain the game real quick, just so you have a kind of rough idea, since it's like a podcast.
Very good.
So the game is at the heart a versus local multiplayer game. Like it's a fighting game, or like a Smash Brothers game, but it's with spaceships in space. And at the same time, it's also a platform fighter. So it's mixing kind of two different types of gameplay: these space dogfights, and then also these top-down space dogfights with like platform fighting. And you kind of have these two things interacting in the same space at the same time.
And you got a bunch of modes too, right? Like there's a co-op mode on top of the competitive mode.
On top of the whole thing, yes.
And like team
mode.
battles and stuff. So yeah.
Oh yeah, it's we broadened the thing basically to try to reach more people and reach everyone who doesn't maybe really want to do competitive. We have bots. You can play solo versus, or you can fight with bots, or you can have humans versus bots. And then
I'm looking forward to talking about the bots because I think they're great, actually. Like, but yeah, sorry, go ahead. I'll cut you off.
Yeah. And then bounty mode, which is the basically a full PvE experience. Solo or co-op, you can basically have an adventure, and it's like a whole different game in the whole thing. Yeah.
Yes. Thank y'all for coming and talking about this, and thanks for letting us try out the game, man. I really am enjoying this game. I kind of mentioned this before we started recording. I played it a ton with my kid. He's 9. He's not a teen. This is a teen-rated game, and I did notice that. I definitay
there's some pixelated blood splatters.
Blood splatters, but it's so good. And like we're watching the Lord of the Rings, so like he's okay. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I did have a moment of pause where my wife came in and watched us play. And so it's like, what's she gonna do when the first blood happens? And she was
the first beheading happens.
Yeah, and she was like, this is bloody. I was like, okay, we're good. Because I don't know. I didn't mean to take us down that rabbit hole either. Sorry. Yeah. I am just geeking out with y'all. Sorry about that.
Awesome. It's so good to hear you. You're enjoying it. It's so weird to be in the process of building something for so long. And we've done a lot of play testing, which is, I'm sure, something we'll bring up, but it's so fun to have it be a finished product and to hear anything, because really like all of the reviews are going to hit on Wednesday. And so it's a couple days from when we're recording the podcast. So we're kind of waiting to kind of hear what everybody really thinks of it.
Yeah. I mean, I if I can also just say some of my experience with it, I first played this during Steam Next Fest on my Steam Deck as just like a demo. So I really enjoyed that. I played that with my dad. So I was your kid in this situation, Patrick. But he was in town for some medical stuff, and we spent some time playing that. Had a really good time doing that. And then I've been playing kind of randomly with different friends throughout that time. Like I played with a few different people on that demo, which is a really hardy demo, by the way. I don't know if there's a demo coming to the Switch or if that was just a Steam exclusive right now.
Yeah, there'll never be a demo again.
Yeah, it's just a Next Fest thing. Yeah. It was really great to have such a chunky demo for that to really sell it on it. But then since you guys gave us this code for the game, I've played with a lot of friends, including I don't know if you remember Nate.
I was gonna say, oh my god,
I brought Nate and Sohan over, who are both big Astro Duel fans and big Samurai Gun players as well. And so I didn't tell either of them that there was like side scrolling like sword action in this game, and then when they came over and found it, everybody was like kind of blown away and was having so much fun with it. So we unfortunately haven't done any 6-player matches yet.
Oh, you're good. We
played up
3?
to 4.
That's great. Yeah, no, have to 6.
Yeah, I mean, I knew I was going to love the versus mode because I played the original Astro Duel and I loved it. And I'd like to talk a little bit more about that here in a second. But the PvE mode, I was really surprised by. And I just kind of wasn't expecting that particular kind of gameplay loop. And kind of just to explain it, it's like you basically you kind of unlock jobs and you try to replay the jobs until you can get high enough medals, and then the medals give you more money the more that you go, and then you can unlock more jobs. And so it's got this really satisfying gameplay loop that was actually like much more fun with other people than I was anticipating. Can you maybe give a little bit of insight into that particular kind of mode and why you went with that gameplay loop?
Jeff, you want to?
Yeah, I think it was kind of looking at some other games and like what they did as far as like, bringing in something that maybe, like we didn't want to build Elden Ring on top of this, right? And the way the like arenas were kind of suited, like, kind of like a closed thing. And it's like, okay, well, it kind of feels like a classic NES like score chaser or like arcade score chaser. So that was kind of like the idea. And then being able to like bring your friends in and play it that way. So not quite a full quote unquote campaign with like a narrative story every 2 seconds or cutscenes, but fun little intro we did kind of explaining the mode to you, and then just like little narrative with like, oh, you can buy the job and then you're completing these jobs to get the money. The better you do, the more money you get. And then, just having that kind of score give you like a breakdown of like what your time or score was with medals.
Yeah. And it's nice to have, because in this era where, getting the high score isn't like the same draw as it was back in the 80s when that was kind of like the main way that we measured our goodness at a game, or even like medals stuff. Now it's like, usually it's like you unlock the gold and it's like, great, you unlock the gold. It's like in this one, that's actually, it gives you something really nice for unlocking the gold. So I thought that was a really thoughtful way to kind of implement those sorts of game ideas.
Yeah. This mode's loop is really nice in like unlocking a new area and like, I just found myself occasionally like playing with my son, and we weren't always great at it at first. Like when it was, because there's kind of new gameplay modes in each one, which I also was kind of surprised by and very pleasantly surprised by. Right. So like then when we needed a little more money, we might grind it, and just like seeing our time get better and better was like a real motivator as well. So
that's so cool. Yeah. Striking that balance was definitely a lot of play testing to figure that out, but because it's kind of like at first you're just kind of playing the content for the first time, like, oh, I need to like wipe out these enemies and fight like someone hard at the end, but then you're kind of put in a position where like, oh wait, it's kind of encouraging me to replay it so that I can unlock some more stuff, and then you start to, oh wait, I'm actually enjoying replaying this and doing better. And you might even stay longer replaying a mission because you're just actually having fun. You're like, well, we're earning more cash, but this is really fun. Like,
yeah, totally. The survival one for me was, I was like, because I didn't even realize it didn't click for me at first that it was like a different mode, because I was like still learning this whole mode that you guys had, right? So, or like that it was a different objective, right? And so then when we realized that, I was like, oh fuck, now we got to get to 10 or we got to get to 15 or whatever, and it became super challenging and very fun. But
awesome.
Just kind of going back to some of the verses and some of the original game as well,
Oh yeah.
This, when we first started Switch Headz back in the day, Astro Duel, the first Astro Duel was a big staple of our kind of get together. It was one of our big games that we would play together, right? I think that there's like kind of a pantheon of Smash likes, if you will, right? Like the kind of 4-player, it's like Towerfall, Samurai Gun, Nidhogg, like those kind of like competitive games that are really fun to play couch co-op. And obviously that was kind of the main draw of Astro Duel 1. So what made you want to go back to that kind of game, expand on it? Like, why a sequel, basically?
Yeah, it's a real good question. And the answer, it goes back even before the first game came out. In fact, I'd say actually as far as back as 2013, was working on Astro Duel at the time, the original, and that was an iPad game, and it was made to be kind of a cocktail arcade cabinet experience. So you put the iPad on the center of a table, laid down, and people would use iPhones as wireless controllers and play around it. So it was basically Asteroids, where you play it from any direction, played socially, but harkening back to these Super Bomberman and kind of the NBA Jam, trying to be in the same place at the same time, like local multiplayer. And as that started advancing, I was like, oh, what's on iPad? Can I get over to Mac? And started using controllers, and I was like, oh, well, this works, but what if we redesigned it differently? And at the time it was just me, and I was like, well, what if I take the control stick, the analog stick, and build, what reimagine it? Let's try something different. And found out that, it could be cool. It could be a very different experience with the analog stick. And I kind of saw like two paths diverging. It's like, well, there's this one game that's kind of built around tank controls, kind of like rotating. And then there's this other game that could be faster and it could be different. It's like, let's do both. So as far back as then, the two projects kind of started. Astro Duel would have just come out and finished, but back in 2015, I was looking at bringing over, was at this point trying to make Astro Duel 2. And I didn't know it was called Astro Duel 2, but I knew it was going to be with the analog stick. It was faster. And this is where the port of the Steam version came from. And ultimately the Switch version came from rewriting it from Objective-C into C++. Because it was really all about this game. It was, how do I make this game? Because it was going to be a little bit larger at the time. And I think as it went on, we started adding, I was adding different ship types. So it was like we had this drill ship. It was about being melee focused, about being faster. Brought in the Phoenix, which was had some defensive capabilities and some wider guns. And this, and then ultimately the Heavy. And this had a lot of time. This was all in 2015 at the time. It evolved and grew, and eventually the idea was struck to like, oh, what about this platforming? I was trying to figure out a way to kind of extend the game at this point. And I was like, well, what if they could enter these kind of gravity zones and it became a platformer? And so at this point, the original game, which had this kind of tank controls and you could rotate, it's like it's a different game. This is the game just for a TV. You know, it's going to be a different experience. And it was an ambitious idea trying to make two games. I was like, oh, it'll be, 80% space and like 20% platforming. It's like, oh, we're not going to focus on that. Oh, because it was going to be single player back then too.
Oh, wow.
So it was just going to be like, it was all about versus and space. But then like, I was playing a ton of Spelunky, and I was like, oh, I love systems and the way things connect. And so I was like, okay, what if, we could enter these gravity zones, you could platform, and you have the space stuff. And it was such a cool idea, but it just took forever to make, let me tell you. I mean, long story short, it's took it all the way till about 2019. Worked on some stuff in between, had to take some breaks, but spent about 3 years of work on the design and the programming, and basically building a very fun versus experience that had both platforming and the ship stuff. And we had the 3 ships at this point, very pretty well balanced. And that's when I was like, okay, tons of code, tons of design has gone into this, but the quality of the production at this point needs to match this level. Because at the point, the art looked like, kind of looked like Astro Duel 1, like just a little bit better, but not really, anywhere near where the design and the code was. And so that's when I brought on Jeff to help, like, let's start to lift this. Let's not just lift the quality, and let's increase the breadth and try and make a larger experience.
Well, there's several things I want to unpack from that. The thing you landed on there at the end with Astro Duel 1 looks great, but this game looks fantastic. And there's just so many wonderful little details. Again, I'm going to say this like 9 times but I played with my son, and my son has spent just a lot of time just flying around on the main map. So this game has, this sort of overworld map, right? Where you can select, and every time I've noticed something new, like a ship in the background or a satellite or whatever, and there's just so many like nice details. I
also love that you have the credits over the main map. I thought that was really, really cheeky. It's like, we're gonna fucking make you look at the credits, baby. I love it. But it reminds me of like a movie, like the opening credits of a film or something like that. It was really cool.
Good, yeah, it should.
And then I think the other thing I thought about, and this kind of ties in with just the detail and the backgrounds on all the different maps that we have, right? The different areas that you have, just like how varied there are. There's the one where you can it's just the melee, right? And then there's one that's just space, right?
Right, yeah. Echo City, the platforming one.
Echo City, yes.
Yeah, and then the Old Mines is the first space only one.
Yeah, and like the fact that we can. And then there's variations thereon. You've got the water on Sunken Temple that has the water.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So you've gotten to play a bit then.
I got that one too. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, it's been great too. And the way you do unlockables, which also kind of ties into what exploring the map and stuff has been really fun for us over here. But just The variety of maps is really nice because there are times where we're like, let's just do Echo City and just, slash it out. And then I kind of like personally, I like the mix a lot. But I also like varying it up, and that's just cool that there's so many maps with varied gameplay for this. So,
yeah, I do. I love too. If I can unpack something else you said there that kind of just blew my mind is like the iPad version, the original one, being a top-down experience because you're literally looking at it from top down, and then this one having gravity or platforming because you're looking at it on a screen, like, makes a ton of sense. And I never put 2 and 2 together on that, but that's such a great just reason to add a whole different gameplay mechanic, right?
I kind of required it.
You talked about, at first it was like 20% of the platforming fighting, but how did that evolve?
The problem was as you played more, and of course we did lots of play testing, it really couldn't be 20%, and this is why the game took so long to make. And so at this point, I personally put over 7 years of work onto it.
Wow.
And that it required us really to make 2 games. Like the ship combat needed to be a full 100% full game, and then the platforming needed to be a full game. So it really could stand on its own. And then on top of that, everything needed to connect together in a tight way. And that took a very long time to build. It's like I want every aspect of the way a platformer should feel, like being able to miss your jumps, or and the game is still responding with the way when you press A too early or too late, with all the detail that goes into making it feel very good, from the polish when the characters land on the ground to the ways that the systems work together. So I mentioned the inspiration from Spelunky. There's so many things where you can fire lasers from out in space and cause things to happen into gravity, and the world will break, or maybe in the Sunken Temple, you'll flood the arena and create like gravity zones or water zones where there weren't before.
Yeah, and that stuff is like emergent as you're playing too, because it all seems so simple. And then you grab the sidewinders when you're in space or whatever, and then you realize like, oh, I can fire those through the force fields or whatever, and that kind of like breaks your brain. And somebody dies, and they're like, "What? That's bullshit," But then it's like, okay, well now I've got a new strategy I can use going forward, right? So that kind of emergent system-based stuff that you're talking about was one of the pleasures of playing it. And I think like, maybe we could talk a little bit about that balance there, because I find that the biggest hurdles in game design that people who are developing for party games or like couch multiplayer style games is, you want it to feel deep. You want it to have stuff that brings you back and keeps you going, and where you can play with the same group of people forever. But you also kind of need to make it simple enough to where you can have your mom pick it up, or your, some random person that's over your house that maybe doesn't play it all the time. Like what's the balance like there, and how do you like approach that from a game design perspective?
Well, I mean, great question. The original Astro Duel was very focused on being far more accessible. There were just a couple of buttons with that one, and turning left and right, and rush, shoot, and power weapon. So it's very, very focused. And this is leaning a little bit more on the complex side, where it's like, okay, we're going to have 2 game modes, but we're not going to start you in it. We're going to start by having you just play in space. The first world you play in is always in space for versus, so that we're all kind of on the same playing field. And there was still a limit with how many buttons we would use. It's trying to constantly only have 3 buttons. It's like, wait, 4. No, it's actually 5 buttons. So you have the stick, and then you have your, on Switch, it's YBA and L and R. So, and you don't really need to use all of them. You really just need to use the shoot and then the thrust button, or as a pilot, the jump and slash button. So you really only are required to do just 2. And then you kind of can grow a little bit. It's like, well, maybe they're not using special weapons at first. So they're not using the aim. That's great. You don't have to. That's fine. You don't need to. So it's about kind of constraining about what's required to do it, and trying to make people feel comfortable. A big thing that helped was the warm up at the beginning, where there's kind of an obstacle course where players need to get through it from front to back. It's not really teaching you how to play the game. It's just trying to teach you some familiarity with the controls, It's like, oh, I pressed A button and I'm going to be able to use that. Oh, I know what my character looks like, just to try to introduce you, because this is a little bit of an obstacle course that all players need to finish. It's a race, but it's not really a race. It's just trying to help you learn.
Oh, it matters over here.
Yeah. If you win, that's my thing. If I win the race, I know I'm going to do good. Like that's, you know.
See, I'm purposefully dragging my feet just to piss off all my friends. That's what I'm doing. Yeah.
I win that race 9 out of 10 times against my son, but you better believe it. The one time he beats me, he's like, oh, yeah, look at that. And I'm like, what?
I try to do it as efficiently as possible. So it's like pick up the laser, do one shot, slide to the side.
That's why I play as the drill, because you can just
that's
fastest race. Yeah, good point. Doesn't matter the rest of the game. Just
yeah,
get the race
I won the race.
Win. Yeah.
So like when I started playing, it was just me and my friend Jeremy, and then.
Yes.
And then my friend Nate came over, and then Sohan came over. So it was we're kind of like bringing people into it. So each time we kind of had to like teach them again, and like whenever they would show up. But because the rounds are so quick and it doesn't take too long to go back, I just naturally went back to playing the first space only level, then the second one where it introduces gravity, then the one where your gravity is in the ship, and all that kind of stuff, right? So it was kind of like. It basically trained me to do that without me even realizing it, and then it made it to where it was really easy for everybody to pick it up and play. Yeah.
I think that's by the design. A little bit of a happy accident because we're a local only game. When you play, I should say it depends on the friends you play with. If you're like, oh, I want to play with you and let me teach you how to play, and then we'll have fun playing together. If you're a friend that just likes to stomp your friends, well,
well, I think those races really do help a lot for that, right? Because it gives you a moment to like, which I think all mini games to some extent need, right? Like where you're kind of like, wait, let me get my bearings for a second, or like, or fast-paced games like this, like, and if you're a new player, you can take your time, or you can really, like you said, at least now I know how to shoot. Like,
I think you could win with only knowing how to shoot too. It's like, it's kind of like Smash. It's like, that's one of the great things about Smash is that if you're just jamming buttons, it's not. You could still do pretty well, like you could win some games, so you don't feel totally left out if you're not like a pro or whatever, right?
Yeah, I think that you did a really good job on this game. And I think just to tell people watching or listening, like that, like this is one of those games where I definitely feel like you can get better and that's really satisfying and you are going to get better, but also like you could lose to somebody who's playing for the first time, like David just said, right? Because it is fast and, chaotic and like, and so I think that works really well.
I just want to ask a little bit about your guys' experience because it sounds like you guys played a little bit. Did you play any teams modes?
That's the one that I did not crack, but you did, Patrick?
Well, so I will, like, full admission, it's just been me and my son. So like we have probably played several hours at least, but like, but we've done every mode, everything that we have been able to unlock thus far, which is something I want to talk about too. But like team is really great for us because it's just two of us. And when we're tired of killing each other, we can kill bots. Right. And I think you did a really good job on the AI for these bots because I think easy bots feel easy and hard bots feel hard. Like it really does make a difference, between those two. Like it's noticeable. Like when we play that we don't win against hard bots. Like they're good, And so we will often do a 6-player match where it's the two of us and a bot against 3 bots, and we get a hard bot on our team and they get a hard bot on their team and 2 easy bots, and that feels pretty. So
you guys
balanced.
are the easy level.
Yeah, we're easy humans. We're equivalent to the easy bots at this point. I feel like we're improving, but so like I think that the bots are actually really fun to play against in our experience over here, and the team mode is really great for when you don't want to go against your friend. And
how long did that take to kind of implement?
Oh, I know. Yeah, I was
bots.
not going to do bots for a long time. It was really focused more about doing single player experience or co-op experience, like PvE versus the enemies, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a minute. But it really came to, I think, spending time with. I was working on that with Damon at the time, who did some of the programming on the enemies and helping me just kind of extend the whole scope of the thing. But it after talking with some friends, it came down to like, well, shoot, like the core of the game really is versus. And my brother, he loved playing with his wife, and she didn't love the versus, but she enjoyed playing, and their better experience is playing humans versus bots. And it's like, we worked so hard on this game, we want to extend it to a wider audience. So, all right, let's bite the bullet. Let's do these. Let's do the bots. It took 4 months to do it. The bots specifically. And there was a lot of design ideas that went into it. Some of them was the big thing that kind of cracked it for me was not trying to have bots feel like players, trying to kind of point out that they are robots. They're not humans. So let's call them bots. Let's make them look different. Let's make them sound different. Let's give them different ships. And their abilities that they used are, or their special abilities for their ships, they're different and they were easier to program. It was like, let's just do it in a way that we don't have to teach them how to use the drill or teach them how to use the warp shot from the heavy ship. So it was trying to call out the fact that they were bots and letting them feel and be different and not hide that. But also, when you play against bots, it's I was very focused on trying to not have that feel like you're playing against players. So you're like, oh, well, now I want to play against players because I see that this is different. And now I'm maybe going to like, I need to get some friends to play with now so I can see what it's like to fight, against a heavy ship or with a heavy ship on my team.
Yeah, I do really like the design of the bots. Like when I first encountered them in the PvE mode, it was like, it was scary. I mean, they got like red eyes and they're fucking, they're coming at you with their sword and you're like, oh shit, these guys are for real, like it all of a sudden became it woke everybody up from like kind of like the, just shooting hordes of monsters or whatever. Right. So that was a really fun thing.
Here's a question for you. Did you program those bots to taunt me?
Oh, absolutely. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Because for sure, whenever the bots win, man, I'm just like, fucking bot. It works.
And they all have different taunts too.
Nice.
Oh, really? Yeah. Oh my God. There's so much I'm still learning about this game.
There's so many great details, y'all. Am I right that hard bots have two? Yeah.
Yes.
There's wonderful little visual clues that are hidden and like that I've picked up on and that have been fun to discover and point out to my son or vice versa.
Jeff, that kind of leads me to a question I definitely wanted to ask you, just about the pixel art for this game. And, like we're talking about so much, it is so detailed, but also it's like remarkably clear. Like everything is really like the readability is, for stuff where there isn't really that many pixels on the screen, and they're all kind of jammed together. I was surprised at how easy it was to kind of like know exactly what's going on, who I'm fighting and when on first go too. It's not like, it's like when I first saw it for the first time, it's like, oh, okay, that's what this enemy does. Not like I have to die a bunch of times and figure it out, right? So can you maybe talk a little bit about that balance between like readability and detail within pixel art?
Yeah, there was a lot that went into it. Because I hadn't really, like I was learning on the fly again on this. So, kind of learning like the tile set layout that we were using for like little 10 by 10 tiles, like all the different layers that go in. Because there's not just like the tile, there's also kind of edges that can give more detail to it. Like when things break, they also get edges too.
Right.
Backgrounds, further backgrounds. So it kind of was like a lot of iteration. Like some of these like tile sets, there's like 40 plus iterations of each one. And some of them it's just like, again, speaking to that readability, it's like, okay, so you like the amount of texture in here. It's not too much to distract the eye, but is it too bright or is it too dark? Okay, let's do 3 of them and like kind of like figure out the Goldilocks zone of like, okay, so the edge is good here, the internals are dark enough here so that it like pops out from the background, but that the, you know, characters don't get lost. Or it's like, you know, oh, we can't make this one as white because if a character's jumping towards the ceiling, their head might get, you know, like kind of lose a little bit in there. And then on top of that, the background tile sets were kind of similar as well. So, you know, it's kind of like set them back a little bit. We don't want them too bright to be competing. So, you know, also turning on like the black and white mode a lot, just seeing, you know, also a lot of color blindness thought into it. So
sure. Yeah.
That kind of came like, okay, we need the contrast. Like the characters have to pop over these backgrounds. The details can't be so detailed that they, again, pull the eye away from the characters. So just a lot of that. And then, you know, working inside of like a 10 by 10 borderless functionally thing, and then getting that to work and look cool. With the background, we had more customization. So you have like special tiles we laid in, a lot of the little like animated guys like in the high rise where they're like cheering and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
The guys like mining in the background of the mines, the bartender in Frontier, like those kind of things. Like even that, we still had to look like, okay, is this like grayed out green? Is that still too bright? Is that gonna, you know, if Dina or Ryu are standing in front of them, like, are they gonna blend together? So there's
you got like a layer of haze kind of between the characters and the background guys. Yeah,
and a lot of like just those tile sets, like bringing them, because Rusty had also made a preview tool that we use. So a lot of times, you know, there's a mode where I could just toggle like a black and white. It wasn't perfect, but it was close enough to see like, yes, the contrast is popping here. And then, you know, sometimes pulling that, taking a screenshot, then going back into like a sprite and then looking like, okay, so maybe if we like tweak these colors a little bit and then, or maybe like take out like a few lines of detail from this, like, you know, wall texture or these rocks, that kind of thing. The hardest ones were Flare Watch and Sunken Temple because
Flare Watch,
because Boxcat is orange, Jet is red. So, because didn't we have to do like a special color for Boxcat for that specifically?
Really?
Very good question, and I do not remember.
Well,
it might be a team color, but I can't remember.
Yeah,
I was going to say I primarily play as Boxcat right now, so I don't know if I've noticed that, but like I've noticed when I switch to teams and he's blue or whatever. But yeah,
I'm a Ryu main.
The solar flare level also, like, that must have been a hard art one. Like, it's so red and the explosions, which is also really fun that there's that hazard. And that changes that gameplay a lot. But
I don't think I've unlocked that stage yet. Is that unlockable?
Yeah.
I think that's I haven't gotten that far yet. Yeah, I got to get that one.
Ooh, cool.
Firing it up right now.
So glad you got to play that one. That's cool because it's it took a real long time to do the full final effect of basically the hazard which was cool. Envisioned as sort of like if Smash Brothers Norfair, you know, if you play Smash Brothers, you've got the fire effect that comes at you, and trying to do it in a diegetic way, not putting up this thing that says like solar flare with like flashing text. And so that went through so much animation and iteration. There's effects where we've got some shaders bringing on these lights, kind of like, hey, you need to go inside. There's it starts to get brighter and explosions start going off in the background. There's animations coming to the side, and then ultimately there's this big giant flare that hits you. I'm trying not to spoil anything. No,
thank you.
But it's really readable. I think even the first time it happened, you know what I mean? Like I had a sense of it. And I think that just gets me to one of the points about this game in general, and this ties into the art, but especially the sound effects as well. Just like this game is super juicy. Like y'all did a great job, and like playing it, I just like it's so fun to feel like that hazard, like you feel it, and it's communicated really well, and like that slash death sound is so like but great. You know what I mean? Like this game is juiciness, the game, in a lot of respects, and I love it.
It's got a great weight to it too, and it's like I think you've mastered the pop off. You know, it's like when when you get blown up, your friend blows you up and then you just like pop off and you want to punch him in the face. It's like it's a very like visceral experience. Like every time that a character dies, it's got a weight to it. And you were talking about, Jeff, the terrain is all destructible, and that's something that, again, that's an emergent thing that you kind of realize as you're playing. Having first of all, the debris flying everywhere and the blood splatters whenever you kill somebody, having that all be animated, but then also like the actual stage changing and the geometry and where the actual edges go, like that was all pretty kind of, this shit I was not expecting to see as I was playing it, right? And it really adds to the kind of, again, that kind of juiciness and the fullness of this whole product is really great.
Yes.
There was a lot of fun work, just speaking of like the deaths, going into like the death animations for like the bounty mode. Like each monster like went through a bunch of iterations, kind of back and forth. Like, should we actually use frame animations? Should we like have chunks that fly off? Like some of them, like the eyeball just floats away, or that sort of thing. And that was also like a fun iteration. Like, oh, how much is too much? Is it going to cover the action, or is it just going to be fun and kind of gross? Like,
I think the pacing of unlockables is really great. And I think you unlock an area, then you unlock a weapon, you unlock a character, and all, or at least that I don't know what you designed. Maybe some of it depends on what you do, but I love that I don't know that too, because definitely my kid has spent way too much time just ramming into places we can't go and being like, when can we go here? Why? What do I? I'm like, I don't think that's how you do it, but you're welcome to sit there doing that, I guess, if you're having fun. You know what I mean?
No. If you ram into it 5,000 times,
I think we've done that. It feels like. And on his behalf, I have to ask you a question, which is, actually, I have to ask you a couple questions on his behalf, real quick. The bottom left corner of the map has this area where if you go into it, it's kind of like staticky, right? And like it's like a storm. Is that an unlockable area? Can you not comment?
I actually don't. I don't know. I don't think anybody's survived who's actually come back from there. So
it's a mystery. Other question: does the harmonica do anything?
No, that is a taunt. The harmonica.
I told him I think
it's
a taunt.
It is absolutely just that.
We're spending 300 hard-earned dollars on this harmonica.
Okay, well, let me break that
I love
down.
it though. No, but then we're sitting there spamming it, and I'm like, does it make them? Maybe it'll make somebody go to sleep or something. Like I don't know. Like we had some fun experimenting with it.
Yeah. The answer is it does not, at least right now. But so the harmonica is only available in the cash grab mode. Right. So that means you guys have gotten to play the cash grab mode.
Oh yes, which is a lot of fun and is another great thing to do when you want to not fight against somebody, right? Like I guess you could probably do it that way, but like
you're playing against bots, you mean?
Yeah, we're playing against bots, and
so it's to explain that for anybody who's not experienced it. The cash grab is a mode that's unlocked as you start to play through Versus, and it's basically kind of like Counter-Strike. You basically are trying to two teams. Someone's trying to break in and steal some cash. One team, the bandits, and the guards are trying to stop them. And so you can either try to kill each other, or you could try to break in and steal the cash and escape and extract with it.
And that feels so good to steal the cash and win that way.
That was
it's
a super
rare.
fun mode.
Oh, you got to play it too. Oh,
I played
awesome!
It too. Yeah,
awesome.
Well, that was like I almost forgot about it because that was at the very end of our play session, and we'd all had a few drinks at this point. But yeah, no, that was a super fun mode.
This was the perfect weekend for me to play. My wife went out of town, and my kid and I just played video games all weekend, and we gravitated towards this and just unlocking stuff. And real quickly too, also the way the characters unlock. I don't want to spoil that for anybody, but that's so much fun. Those are nice moments there.
Yeah, maybe real quick before we finish up here, can we give a shout out to your composer who composed for this game and how did you?
Many people. The main one, Matthew Grimm, a longtime collaborator. I worked with him on Retro Game Crunch back in the day, and he also did the music for Dig Dog. He's made a lot of chiptune music, and this is not maybe his first, but one of his first. Extending a little bit beyond just chiptune, and he did more than half the music. And I mean, because of him, we actually have a song for every world. It wouldn't have happened without Matt. And
that's cool.
other Matt, Matt Moyher, he did the intro music, which we used to, tie into the cinematic and also the victory song when you win. He did a couple of tracks in there. And then there's been a few tracks actually coming in from Astro Duel Deluxe on Switch. So there's a few maybe familiar tracks, maybe not at first, but as you kind of play through the game, there'll be some of those tracks. So there's a bunch of people.
Oh yeah, that's great. It's a banging soundtrack, super enjoyable.
Cool. Well, I think then we should wrap it up. Is there anything else, Rusty or Jeff, y'all wanted to make sure and mention before we close out?
Oh, well, I mean, definitely buy it.
Yes.
Yeah, we're making it, and it'll be 10% off at launch. So you should.
Cool. Is that on all platforms?
Yeah, no, not all platforms. It'll be 10% off on Switch and 10% off on Steam, and during launch week. And during launch week, it'll be free on the Epic Game Store.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, yes. So, highly recommend everybody go and download and buy Astro Duel 2. And with that, we're going to take another short break. And when we come back, we'll talk about the games we've been playing recently. Honestly, played a lot of Astro Duel 2 this weekend, but we've already talked about that. My kid and I also played a lot of Minecraft. It's kind of strange because he dragged me into playing Minecraft, and now I feel like I'm like, hey, you want to play Minecraft? Because I'm really into it now, which I talked about this last week, but I'm kind of obsessed and just enjoying. He always wanted to play creative at first, but now we're playing survival, and that's kind of where it shines for me. I don't like to do the building. I like to do the craft, or like the resource gathering and surviving and stuff like that. So I've been playing a lot of that. And then also we've just been kind of continuing in playing Mario versus Donkey Kong. We've been kind of slow going at that because I don't know, we'll do a few levels and then we'll go play some Astro Duel. and that's honestly kind of what the weekend was like. And then every once in a while, maybe I'm like, you sure you don't want to play another day in Minecraft? So yeah, those are the games that I've been playing recently. Dave?
Cool. Yeah, I'll go next. I mostly been playing Astro Duel as well, but I've been playing Penny's Big Breakaway. I'm back on Penny's Big Breakaway. That game is so fucking good. I don't know if you guys have played that yet, but it is such a blast. 3D platformer. I'm kind of taking my time with it, going in like kind of level by level, one at a time, but also like trying to get all the collectibles. I mean, I'm kind of right now just sort of beating the game and leaving enough for me to go back to.
Is this the one from the Sonic Mania team?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, I can't wait to play this one.
Yeah, it's super fun. It's out on everything, I think, which is cool too. But yeah, super enjoying that game. Picross S Plus. I picked that up. I'm a huge fucking Picross head, and this is a great package. I said it last week, but this is all of the Picross E puzzles from the 3DS eShop only Picross games that they released. These are now all in one big package. You can buy the base game for $5 and then each of the individual Picross E games for $5. So it's like $45 if you get it all together, and you goddamn better know that I fucking bought all 9 for no reason. I don't need 1,300 puzzles all at the same time, but I'm already more than halfway through Picross E, so we're making our way through, gang. I've got a serious problem. One day I'll be happy. And then lastly, I want to give just a shout out. I've been playing this one just every once in a while. Donut Dodo is such a goddamn good game. I don't know if you guys have played this, but it is I think you might like it, Rusty, because, Astro Duel reminds me of kind of arcade throwback, right? This is very much that. It's like an arcade game from the 80s that never actually released, and we're playing it now, but, it's made today. There's they came up with a new one. Cash Cow DX is kind of the spiritual successor, but I wanted to give a shout out specifically to Donut Dodo because I just picked up the 7-inch vinyl of the soundtrack for this one. And so I've been playing this today. It's the first time I had to change my record player to 45 RPM in a hot minute. But it's such a great fucking soundtrack and it's a really great game. And I really recommend this my list. Yeah, it's like $5. It's a very easy pickup. And I really recommend that one as well. Rusty, how about you? Let's go with you first. What have you been playing recently?
Well, I finished up Cobalt Core, Cobalt Core it's a roguelike deck builder published by Brace Yourself Games. It has kind of like a pixel art aesthetic where you're going through like a roguelike. You're trying to travel. Has a lot, kind of feels like FTL if it were kind of a card-based game. You're kind of going through different nodes and you'll do these ship battles and you kind of slide left and right while you're building a deck and kind of like trying to do a run. But run's like 20 minutes long and it's not, it just really breezes by. And it has a great mix of like sound and art and storytelling. It's just little bits of story that kind of come in. The writing is funnier than I thought it would be. It just comes in just a little bit when it needs to be, and it kind of jumps to but you're really kind of focused on the gameplay, which is the cards. Loved it. I played it all the way through and finished it. And a game that I've actually come back to this last week has been Sea of Stars. Absolutely beautiful. It's I don't know if you guys have played it or checked it out, but it's kind of like looks like Chrono Trigger, like a modern day version of Chrono Trigger. It has great vibes. Although the thing that kind of bounced me off initially was actually the story, where I really didn't. The story just wasn't that strong to keep me hooked. But this last week, I decided to pick it up again and look for something I could just chill out with, and it's been pretty good. Especially as it's gone further, I've enjoyed a little bit more of the story. But it looks absolutely stunning. Like their lighting mixed with their art, it's really a top tier team. I think this is
literally all you need to do to get me on your side is add rim light to your pixel art characters. It's like I'm sold. Yeah.
They killed it. So I'm enjoying that. I think I'm at the final dungeon now. So I'm looking forward to clearing that. And I've also been playing a game called Managed Democracy, which is actually called Helldivers 2. So it's excellent. It's basically, I'm playing Left 4 Dead with friends, except, there's a lot more of accidental killing each other and, huge element of Starship Troopers. Playing that on PC, crossplay too with PlayStation. It's very fun. Very fun.
I have yet to play this. But so many people that I respect and admire are telling me that they're completely addicted to this game. Does this give Earth Defense Force vibes at all?
A little bit.
Because I know that's like way goofier, maybe, but this feels like it's got some camp to it as well.
Yeah, you'll fight a horde, and it's maybe not as insane for the enemies that can come out, but it is definitely very fun.
Awesome.
Well, I got a little bit of crossover with some of these. So I think the thing that's been taking up most of my gaming time has been going through the P-Cross S games that I've missed. So the first one, just beat that on 3, because I think I had like 2. I think 1, 3, and 5 were the ones I was missing before S Plus's release, because I've been a fan of those. Like, buddy of mine back when I lived in Ohio was like going back to like Mario P-Cross back on Game Boy. It was like, this game is amazing. You got to play these. They started coming out on DS, and I was like, okay, yep, they're amazing.
Yeah, I got my copy of Picross 2 right here for the Game Boy. Yeah. I knew there was something I liked about you, Jeff.
Yeah. No, Picross, love it. And it's like a perfect second screen game too. So I'm like, watching a movie, doing a puzzle, like perfect.
It's my morning poo game for me.
Yeah. Also beat Cobalt Core recently, so refer to Rusty's comments about that one. Really dug it too. I just love deck builders in general. I've been playing a little bit of Helldivers, only about 2 or 3 because I was kind of stuck in the server woes for a little bit. But and anything that references Starship Troopers, yes, more of that. And I really liked the first one on PS4 as well, where it was kind of just like the top-down twin stick, and this is just, you can't see behind you now because it's third person, so it made it even more challenging.
Sure.
And then Dark Tide is the other one. Love that game. Love Vermintide 2. Played the bejesus out of that on Steam, and I've been playing 40K Dark Tide on Game Pass on Xbox now, and it's just, again, Rusty mentioned Left 4 Dead. It's just Left 4 Dead, but 40K. You're just going into a hive city, blowing up a bunch of like chaos mutants, and think the coolest thing about it to me, though, is not the actual story. Like, I'm the guy who'll just mash skip on a cutscene if I can, like, get me back into the gameplay. But, like, there's a lot of, like, banter between the characters. You'll just be walking around, and if, like, character, like, backgrounds are kind of opposed to each other, they'll just start arguing, like, while you're just, like, shooting around and doing stuff. And it's beautiful. And then on the tabletop front, got to play in with actually some of the folks from ATX Game Makers of Escape from the Aliens in Outer Space. So a bit of a mouthful. It's a hidden movement, hidden identity game that's played on dry erase maps. So it's like 2 pages of dry erase. The top one tracks your movement through the space station, and the bottom one is notes for other people's movement when they declare it. So basically, you're kind of like half aliens, half player or people. The people are trying to get to escape pods. The aliens are trying to eat the people. Nobody knows who they are until somebody attacks. And you're just kind of like, you'll say like, okay, I want to move to like J09. Oh, that's dangerous. I have to draw a card. Okay, this card lets me bluff. So you just call out any like coordinate, and you're like kind of like playing mind games with people, like trying to fool them for when you have to actually like give away your position versus like faking it. And it's real tense, real fun, real stupid. I team killed twice in the last game I had played of it by accident. Because like, oh, they're on the human side. Yeah. And they're like, oh,
is it destroying any of your real life relationships?
It can. It's one of those that's good at that. Like a coup or those types of games. Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah. Well, awesome. That's going to do it then for this episode on Astro Duel 2. Thank you so much, Rusty and Jeff, for coming on and talking with us today.
Thanks for having us.
It's been a blast.
Thanks to MilkyWay.co, who does our website. Thanks to Corduroy, who does our music. If you're looking for me, Patrick, you can find me most places online as PDYX, and my game company as One Frog Games.
I'm pretty much everywhere on the internet at Monolith Fiji. And what about the two of you? Where can we find you guys online?
You can find me in most places, Twitter, etc., as Rusty M, and of course Wild Rooster on the socials as well.
And I mostly am a lurker, but sometimes posting more recently for the Astro Duel promotion. But on Twitter, it's Pretty Hype Hefe, but JEFFE.
Nice.
Very good. Very good. That's where you can find them online. And then, yes, of course, check out Wild Rooster. Check out Astro Duel 2 when it drops on the eShop. If you're playing on Switch or on Steam, go check that shit out. It's a blast. I can't recommend it enough. And if you're in the Austin area, we got to do some meetups here pretty soon so we can play in person. That would be a super fun. Add it to the rotation of the amazing local multiplayer games. And good luck with launch to the both of you as well.
Yes.
Thank you.
Very, very excited to hear about how that goes. If you'd like to find our show on social media, we are at Switch Headz on Twitter, at Super Switch Headz on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We got a website, switchheadz.com, and we have a Facebook group, Discord, and a Patreon now. We'd love for you guys to join the Discord. One of the best communities I've ever been a part of on the internet. Super wonderful group of non-toxic gamers. And our Patreon is popping off. Thank you to everybody who's been a supporter of that so far. We have had some exclusives go up on the Patreon. We'll be doing more exclusives going forward. Figuring out the cadence on that, but hey, we're new to the Patreon thing. And you know what? We might not be making $30,000 a year, but we're probably not going to be sued by Nintendo. So I think we're doing something right. So check us out. We'll have links to all of those in the description of this episode, whether you watch it on YouTube or you're listening on any of your podcast platforming apps. I also, we're on YouTube Music now. I finally figured out how to get our podcast on there. So if you use that platform, which I don't know anybody who does, you can look us up on that now. You do? Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
I knew there was something I liked about you, Jeff. Oh, man. All right. That's going to do it for this episode. We're going to be back next week with an all-new great banger, so don't change that dial. And in the meantime, gang, you guys know the drill. Stay safe out there. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to one another. Play Astro Duel 2 tomorrow when it comes out. Other than that, we love you very much. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.